Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Our subject of the day is Actualizing Value with AI-Driven Analytics. I'm Andreas Khalil, Partner and Program Manager at Appio Solution, and your moderator for the day. Before I hand you to today's presenter, I would like to mention our rules of engagement. This webinar is recorded and will be available on demand. Please reach out to your partner or direct contact on the team to gain access to it. For questions, leverage the Q&A feature in your top toolbar. We'll dedicate time at the end of this webinar to answer them. Our featured speaker for today is Brian Halda, Senior Solution Architect. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Andreas. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we'll jump right in.
If you're sharing, I cannot see it yet.
Let me try it again.
Apologies, everyone. It seems we're having a little bit of technical difficulties today.
Yeah, one sec.
Take your time.
Here we go. I believe I might be having the same problem you were having.
I believe so. You should share it directly without, not the PowerPoint Live, but the normal one.
Okay, here. We'll just do it like this.
Try to screen share without the PowerPoint Live. Yep, here we go. And go into the presenter's view. I can see your screen. Yep.
Okay. Sorry for the delay. So today, we'd like to talk a little bit about how we actualize value with AI-driven analytics with our customers. For those that don't know, from an Appio perspective, we cover many designations. From a Microsoft perspective, we'll cover Microsoft from end to end. The items that we'll be talking about today integrate with each one of these pieces: data and AI, security, modern work, how we collaborate, and then Azure infrastructure, all from a technology perspective. But I will preface that data and AI projects typically will fail if we start with technology. And this is what we're really going to get into today. So the core problem that we see today, and honestly over the last decade, is that organizations have invested very heavily in data platforms, dashboards, analytics tools, but many executives still struggle to answer basic forward-looking business questions. Most analytics environments are optimized to report what already happened, not necessarily what will influence what happens next. And as a result, insights arrive too late to change outcomes. Data is often fragmented across different systems, across finance, operations, supply chain. This forces leaders to reconcile multiple versions of the truth before they can even begin making decisions. AI initiatives themselves in these areas frequently start as technology experiments, proofs of concept that demonstrate capability but really fail to translate into something that's operational or has any real positive financial impact. So when analytics programs are positioned as platform upgrades, executives tend to struggle to justify continued investment, right? Because the business value is indirect and it's difficult to measure. In contrast, executives are accountable for outcomes such as cash flow, margin, resilience, growth. They're not accountable for the tools used to analyze them. So this creates a disconnect because technology teams talk about platforms and features, while business leaders make funding decisions based on an actual measurable return. This is why successful analytics programs reverse the conversation, starting with the outcome and then selecting the platform that can actually deliver the outcome. At the end of the day, though, leaders are not rewarded for deploying platforms. Senior leaders are rewarded for delivering outcomes. So we're going to explore that. The value framework. Uh, since leaders fund outcomes rather than platforms, analytics initiatives must be structured around how value is created and measured, not how technology is deployed. Often, outcome-driven analytics start by explicitly identifying the actual business problem that carries financial operational consequence, such as things like cash volatility, excess inventory, service level risk. Once we've identified the business problem, we determine what the outcome is, right? So the value hypothesis definition. Once the problem is clear, we have a quantifiable statement that links improved decision making to measurable impact, such as reduced operating cost or improved margins. Only after the value is defined, only after the value is defined does a data and AI and an AI-driven analytics project enter into the conversation, right? Because then once we have the value, we know what the problem is, but we know what the value proposition is, then we can position the technology as an enabler of better decisions, right? Not the ends themselves. This makes it much easier for an executive to rationalize. Now, operationalization is super important once we've enabled, but this is where many initiatives tend to fail because the insights that we're providing have to be embedded directly into the workflows where finance, operations leaders, right, where they're actually making those decisions. So it's not enough just to deploy determine what the issue is, provide the solution and implement it. We have to actually embed those into their processes and workflows. Finally, value realization, it requires continuous measurement. We need to tie analytics output back to business KPIs continuously to prove that outcomes are being achieved over time. This framework creates a closed loop. Business problems drive analytics, analytics drive decisions, and decisions drive measurable outcomes. This is also the foundation of effective solution selling. It ensures every technology conversation is anchored to executive accountability and business value. So the core challenge is really finding the right buyer. Typically, as partners, we deploy technology, so we work with IT leaders. We need to find the real buyer. Who is the buyer of these sorts of solutions? One of the biggest challenges for value-added resellers is not solution capability; it's selling to the wrong budget owner. When we look at how organizations actually spend money, we have a clear pattern that emerges. The largest budgets sit outside of IT. For instance, operations, supply chain, right? They typically control a quarter to nearly half of total enterprise spend, which means even small improvements can unlock significant financial value. Finance controls a substantial portion of spend as well, right? Especially related to working capital, liquidity, risk, areas where AI-driven analytics directly apply to those processes and workflows. So by contrast, IT budgets are relatively small. They're often single-digit percentages and are primarily allocated to keeping systems running rather than being allocated to fund transformational outcomes. So this actually explains why many deals stall when they're positioned as IT projects. It may support the initiative, but it rarely owns the business case. Therefore, successful sellers reverse this dynamic. They start with finance or operations. They establish executive sponsorship and then bring IT in to validate feasibility and governance. So the implication for sellers is simple but very powerful. If you want larger, faster moving deals, you have to align your conversations to the budget owners who are accountable for the outcomes. And since the bigger budgets sit out of IT, it's necessary to get that executive sponsorship so you can get to the right budget owner. And now a little dose of reality for this is that if you're a VAR today and you sell storage, compute, network, cybersecurity, virtualization, your basic data center components, if you're already selling this hardware, they already trust you for this. You already have a relationship with IT. However, business leaders are asking, why can't we predict risk? Why can't we move faster with data-driven decisions? Why does analytics only tell us what happened in the past instead of what will happen? And also, if you do not lead this conversation as the partner, somebody else will. Another partner will. An AI first firm will. And let me tell you, out there in the marketplace, those AI first firms that are leading those discussions also sell hardware. And they will eventually take that relationship. It's not a matter of if. Okay, so now I have a couple of use cases that we'll explore. We'll explore the use case from the business aspect, and then we will associate that with the actual process of getting that implemented. We're not going to go over the technical piece of this, but we want to follow a solution sales process for it. So first will be predictive cash flow and working capital optimization. So use case one, financial analytics. We talked a little bit about this, cash flow, liquidity. So cash flow is one of the few metrics that every executive understands immediately. Your executives understand it immediately because it directly impacts growth, risk tolerance, strategic flexibility. Despite this, many financial organizations still rely on spreadsheet-driven forecasts and lagging indicators that struggle to keep pace with today's volatility. Revenue timing, customer payment behavior, external market conditions, these things can shift very quickly, creating uncertainty that traditional reporting just can't absorb. This results in finance teams spending more time explaining forecast variances than proactively influencing outcomes. Right? We see in sales leadership, we see this all the time. So the real challenge is not a lack of data. You probably have a ton of data on all of this in many disparate systems, but you have a lack of predictive visibility into what is likely to happen and why it's happening. So predictive cash flow analytics reframes the conversation from what did we miss last quarter to what risks and opportunities are emerging right now, so that decisions can be made right now. By applying AI-driven forecasting and scenario analysis, finance leaders can anticipate liquidity gaps, adjust collection strategies, make informed investment decisions, and they can do it earlier. This use case is compelling because it directly ties analytics to executive accountability. Once the business problem is clear, which we've defined, the problem being volatile revenue cycles, delayed receivables, excess working capital tied up in operations. Then the next step is defining exactly what success looks like and how we measure it. So success. So we have this challenge acknowledged. The most important question becomes what outcomes would justify the investment? Forecast accuracy in and of itself it's not a technical metric. It directly affects how confidently leaders can allocate capital, manage risk, and plan growth. So improving forecast accuracy by even 20 to 30% enables finance teams to anticipate liquidity issues earlier and take corrective action before they become material risks. Reducing day sales outstanding it's not an operational improvement, but it directly frees up cash that can be redeployed towards strategic initiatives. Better liquidity planning allows organizations to reduce reliance on short-term financing and improve overall financial resilience. So from a CFO perspective, the real value lies in shifting from reactive explanations to proactive decision support. These outcomes must be tracked through clear KPIs. And in this case, we have forecast variance, free cash flow, bad debt exposure, right, to ensure accountability and sustained value realization. So when analytics investments are tied directly to these outcomes, they move from a discretionary spend to strategic necessity. So now that we have our problem defined, we have a clear understanding of what the outcomes are that we want. The next question then in the whole process is, how do we enable them? How do we enable them without adding complexity or disrupting finance operations? The solution architecture, the architecture's role is to enable better financial decisions with minimal disruption. So the starting point is unifying the data. We unify the data. It could be in multiple different places, our ERPs, our receivables, our billing systems, right? Our sales solution, system, CRM, external locations. But we unify them into a single trusted financial view. And in this case, Ampio is a Microsoft shop. We're seeing a lot of traction out there for Microsoft Fabric. So we unify all of this into a trusted financial view using Microsoft Fabric. This eliminates reconciliation delays, ensures finance leaders are working from a consistent and governed version of financial truth. And then for us, the techie guys, we can wrap security around it. We can wrap content security, data security, RBAC controls for who can actually access it, when, where, and how. We can log it, audit it, all in this one place. And on top of this foundation, predictive models built with Azure AI will analyze historical trends. So we want to see where we've been. It'll analyze customer behavior for better personalization. And then external signals to forecast cash flow and identify emerging risks. So we're not focused on just what happened in the past. We're looking forward and can actually forecast what's going to happen in a more accurate way. Importantly, these models do not operate as black boxes, but they surface drivers and assumptions behind forecasts so finance leaders can trust and validate the results. Generative AI adds another layer of value by translating complex analytics into clear executive-ready narratives, right? It'll explain those forecast changes. It'll explain risk factors and scenario impacts, all in plain language. Insights are delivered directly through familiar tools, right? Dashboards, Power BI dashboards. I'm sure most have that. But also natural language queries. So they will ask the tools in plain language and get responses back in plain language, and properly trained, they'll be extremely accurate. And this will ensure adoption without retraining finance teams. The outcome is not more data. Like I said, there's probably a ton of data. So the outcome is not more data, but faster, more confident financial decisions grounded in explainable AI. So now we have a solution in place. We have our problem identified, business outcomes determined. We have a solution in place to enable better financial decisions to meet these problems head on. The final step is ensuring that it's positioned and sold in a way that aligns to how finance leaders actually make investment decisions. So let's explore that process. In solution selling, it's critical to align every conversation to business outcomes, not technology features. Finance leaders don't buy dashboards. They buy cash flow confidence, reduced risk, and working capital improvement. So our discovery starts with understanding the CFO's top pain points. And you saw that a few slides ago. We understand the top pain points: forecast volatility, liquidity risk, delayed receivables, financial leakage. This ensures the conversation addresses real business priorities. And in our conversations throughout the sales process, we reference those. We develop a value hypothesis, which translates those pain points into measurable impact. For example, improving forecast accuracy by X% frees X million in working capital, right? This actually quantifies why the solution matters. The solution vision focuses on enabling predictive, scenario-driven finance, not adding another reporting tool, but this frames solutions like Microsoft Fabric and Azure AI. It frames them as enablers of better decisions rather than ends in themselves, right? Rather than just, here's a line item on my budget, here's what it's going to cost me. And then the proof of value provides tangible evidence of impact before full adoption. So for example, we do like a 90-day pilot where we can compare historical forecast accuracy to AI-generated forecasts, demonstrating potential gains in cash flow, visibility, and operational efficiency. And in a lot of cases, Microsoft will pay for that. The decision aligns investment with outcomes. That's how they make their decision. Finance leaders approve solutions based on projected cash and risk improvements, not on the underlying technology stack. Which is why when we talk to customers about these things, we don't just say, hey, customer, do you want to learn about Microsoft Fabric? Hey, customer, do you want to learn about Azure AI? We ask them the question, what is your actual problem? What is the pain? Let's understand that first. And truly partnering with the customer means going through this entire process. CFOs need to understand the drivers behind AI recommendations. Solution selling has to communicate both business value and transparency. And the solution has to be positioned as a business enabler. Can't drive that home enough. It has to be positioned as a business enabler that addresses their priorities, that addresses senior management priorities, so it can accelerate their decision making and deliver measurable outcomes. So use case one, predictive cash flow, working capital optimization. This resonates with practically every customer that I've talked to. We have a second use case, going through the exact same process, a different context, but same process. And this is just to illustrate that regardless of the use case, the process from getting to discovery to decision is the same and can be repeated. So use case number two, we have AI-driven demand forecasting and inventory optimization. So this is for logistics and supply chain analytics. Supply chains today face unprecedented volatility. Those who worked through COVID, for instance, could see that firsthand. There was fluctuating demand, rising transportation costs, unexpected disruptions. Our traditional planning approaches failed to keep pace across the board. So the consequences were very tangible. Overstock inventory ties up cash. Stockouts, they hurt revenue and customer satisfaction as a whole. If you were selling gear to any of your customers during that time, during that 2-3 year period, you knew exactly what we're talking about. And the folks that absolutely didn't have a problem with that were the ones that already had that stock on hand, and it was very local. And it wasn't something that was very common. You know, in some cases, the back order time on most equipment was 12 to 18 months. And this is one of those things that has a major hit against customer satisfaction. So operations leaders are looking for ways to balance cost efficiency and service reliability. And that requires better visibility into what will happen next, not just what happened yesterday. Again, same context as finance. AI-driven demand forecasting transforms historical sales, supplier data, external signals into accurate forward-thinking predictions at SKU and location level. So inventory optimization leverages these forecasts to determine how much stock to carry and where, reducing waste and where, right? But reducing waste while maintaining service levels. This use case is compelling in and of itself because it links operational efficiency directly to financial outcomes. Your lower inventory cost, improved cash flow, better margins, right? While improving customer satisfaction as a whole. And like the finance example, success relies on embedding insights into the workflow. So planners, supply chain managers, they need actionable recommendations delivered in tools that they already use. So this is not just a cool AI project. It's a solution that reduces risk, frees up working capital, strengthens operational resilience, and this generates outcomes that actually matter to both operations and financial leaders, right? To your COO contacts, to your CFO contacts. So now that we understand the business problem in logistics and supply chain, let's define specific outcomes. Just like with the finance example, we'll define specific outcomes we aim to achieve, and then how we measure that success. So the challenge is clear in this particular example. Demand variability, stockouts, inventory costs. The next step is defining what success looks like. The primary goal is to reduce excess inventory without compromising service levels. Even a small percent reduction can free up significant working capital, 15, 25%. It can free up significant working capital. Improving order fulfillment and on-time delivery directly impacts customer satisfaction and revenue retention. Customers expect reliability. Again, you lived through the COVID era of being in a VAR, you understand exactly what that means. Customers expect reliability, and AI-driven forecasting helps to ensure that reliability. Reducing inventory carrying costs and transportation inefficiencies. This has a direct financial impact, improves margins, and you get an operational ROI. So, and just like with the previous one, success has to be measured through clear KPIs. Inventory turnover. This affects how efficiently stock moves. The fill rate. It affects the ability to meet demand. On-time delivery affects service performance. Cost per shipment affects operational efficiency. This approach moves logistics from a reactive firefighting to proactive planning, giving supply chain leaders, confidence in decisions that they make. So we're not just optimizing stock levels, we're optimizing cash flow, reducing risk, improving operational resilience, all in measurable ways. And just like with the finance use case, the solution must align AI-driven supply chain analytics with outcomes. It has to be aligned with outcomes that matter to both operations and finance in this case, which ensures executive buy-in because it justifies the investment with actual numbers. Well, let's take a look at how Microsoft Fabric and Azure AI enable these results for this use case. So since our outcomes are defined, which is we want reduced inventory, we want to improve fulfillment, we want to lower costs, the next question is, how do we enable this? How does the technology enable these results, again, without disrupting existing operations? The foundation, as with the other example, is unified data using Microsoft Fabric, historical and real-time supply chain data from WMS systems, TMS systems, order management systems, supplier systems, Again, spreadsheets, if you still have those and you keep those, this can all be consolidated into this single trusted source. It ensures planners and operators and operations leaders are making decisions based on one version of the truth. And that's very important, one version of the truth, rather than reconciling multiple disconnected systems. Azure Machine Learning adds perspective and predictive capabilities. So it forecasts demand at the SKU and location levels. It enables inventory planning and it aligns with it aligns with expected customer demand. Azure OpenAI and generative AI enhance usability because it produces planner copilots that suggest inventory adjustments, and it does it again within their workflows. Exception summaries, highlighting supply chain risks, root cause explanations for demand or supply anomalies, just as a few examples. Insights are delivered in role-based dashboards, obviously, and again, natural language interfaces. The embedding embedding recommendations directly into existing planning workflows helps to justify everything. And then from a business perspective, the architecture reduces guesswork, improves agility, and allows supply chain teams to act proactively instead of reactively, all while generating measurable financial and operational improvements. And again, it has to be measurable. So the platform is successful because it accelerates decisions and drives outcomes, not because it's technologically sophisticated. Because again, leaders buy outcomes. They don't buy tools. They buy outcomes. So we have to frame it accordingly. Finally, we map this to the sales process, just like we mapped the other to the sales process. We have the discovery. We've already gone over that. The value hypothesis, solution vision, proof of value. We've already found out what the problem is. We have our value hypothesis where we quantify it and we quantify the potential benefits. We've established the solution vision. We position the platform as a decision support system that optimizes supply chain planning, right? Rather than just here's another reporting tool. And the proof of value we execute so we can backtest forecasts against historical demand, simulate inventory optimization scenarios, and we highlight operational improvements and risk reduction. This leaves it to a very easy decision for the leaders, right? Leaders will approve the investment when the business case clearly ties improved margins, working capital efficiency, and service reliability to the actual platform. And we emphasize trust in all of this. Operations and finance leaders, they need to understand the recommendations generated by AI to confidently act on them. Okay, finally, we've already talked some about this, but since we all sell technology and we are the technologists, some of the differentiators, why Fabric, why Azure AI for these use cases. Fabric, we have one single data foundation in one link. Fabric unifies data across all sources. It eliminates the silos. It eliminates reconciliation delays. This ensures all analytics and AI insights are based on trusted, consistent data. There's native AI integration. So Azure Machine Learning, Azure OpenAI, it works seamlessly on top of Fabric, meaning predictive and generative capabilities are built directly into the platform rather than bolted on externally. We reduce data movement and duplication by centralizing data and AI workflows. Right? We spend less time moving and cleaning data and more time generating insights, the driving outcomes. And this gives us faster proof of value cycles. We have unified data plus embedded AI. It allows pilots proof of value. It allows them to run quickly, demonstrating tangible business results in weeks rather than months. And we've experienced this firsthand on many occasions. So the sales advantage from a solution selling perspective is that this makes it easier to articulate the business case. It shortens the sales cycle and it demonstrates measurable value to executives early so you can get from discovery to decision much quicker. And then all of this frames Fabric and Azure AI not just as a technology upgrade, right? It's a value accelerator. It enables the organization to move quickly from business problem to measurable outcome in multiple domains. So, key takeaways. Throughout the presentation, we've seen that the real value of AI-driven analytics lies in measurable business outcomes, not in deploying the latest platforms or technologies, just measurable business outcomes. Finance and logistics leaders respond to impact, not infrastructure, whether that's improved cash flow, reduced working capital, optimized inventory, excuse me, better service levels. Microsoft Fabric and Azure AI simply provide the foundation and tools to make this possible. The most successful organizations are those that tie every analytics initiative to a clear business outcome. They measure results, and then they continuously iterate. So by following, excuse me, this outcome-driven framework, analytics and AI move from being experimental. Pardon, I need water. They move from being experimental or exploratory to being trusted, a trusted capability that executives rely on for decision making. So in your own capacities for what you do, an easy way to figure out what sort of use cases would be great for your customers or yourselves. Think about which high impact business outcomes right where you are could be accelerated by AI-driven analytics, because odds are these things will resonate with your customers. They'll translate into use cases you consider for your customer. And these couple of use cases that I've presented are real life use cases that have been implemented with customers. Probably the best use case that I've seen, and I'll end on this, probably the best use case that I've seen. If you've ever worked with oil and gas, finding petrochemicals is one of the things that they spend most of their money on, and they do that because you find the petrochemicals that translates into your profit essentially. Chevron presented their solution for AI in that they had all these topographical maps that individuals, a human person, would go and they would analyze these maps, and based on certain indicators, they would determine whether or not they should look for petrochemicals in a particular area. Well, they found that they implemented an AI solution that would do that 1,000 times faster than any person, right? So it wasn't about eliminating necessarily a position, but now they have the ability to be able to find petrochemicals faster, more accurately, so that they save cost on the exploration. They can drive additional revenue by finding it quicker. So there's just one example, smaller example. If you're a VAR, you probably have renewals that you have set up with your customers every year. Automate the renewal process. Have AI read all these renewal quotes that come in, maybe automatically from your vendors. Have the AI pick up the document, conduct an OCR on it, determine all the information on it that needs to be determined to be put into one of your own quotes, right? Save yourself a whole week's worth of time in generating renewals simply by using agentic AI to do the bulk of the work for you, and then have a human validator. So these are just a few examples, but like I said, think about those high impact business outcomes where you are. These will likely translate into opportunities that you can take to your customers. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. We do not have time for Q&A since we're over our scheduled time. If you have any questions, please message us or send us an email through your partner or anybody at Ampio. And follow us on Ampio Solutions on LinkedIn for our upcoming webinars. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brian, for the wonderful presentation.